Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a question for you. Perhaps you can answer it for me. Where's John Fury? Where's he gone? Disappeared? Surely not. Because when you consider John Fury over the last few years, and certainly during the build-up to the Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk fight, John was there. He was in the foreground. He was shouting and bellowing and blustering and blathering, and you couldn't shut him up. Wherever there was a camera, his face was in it. Ooh, ooh, the hard road. And as we know, he headbutted one of the Usyk crew or some Usyk fan and some thin guy who just happened to be chanting Usyk's name, supporting his fighter. John didn't like this. It's disrespectful to my son. So he headbutted him. And who came off worst in that? John. Blood coming down his head. But when he first came onto the scene, John was... initially, if you'd seen him, you didn't know who he was, you'd think, oh, he's quite an intimidating character, and then it became more of a pantomime act, and then from there it sort of degenerated into being an embarrassment, frankly, for at least the last year. Does anyone really take John seriously? He calls out all sorts of people, makes excuses when they step up to him or say, yeah, I'll fight you. And it all smacks of a dog with a bark worse than its bite, I suppose. But John actually reminds me of someone from history. I'm into 20th century history, probably because I grew up around my grandparents who were of that era. They were adults during the Second World War, and there's no doubt that, and don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing John Fury to this person in any shape or form. He's not that bad. Very few people are. But if you look at Adolf Hitler is a very fascinating character, psychologically, very, very fascinating, because for all his blather and bluster and piss and wind, he was essentially a very small man, both in physical stature and mentally. His psyche was incredibly brittle. He was, a terrified, highly insecure, probably sexually repressed, low self-esteem, a bag of air, really, who used a lot of populist rhetoric, tried to get inside, the modern consciousness, and by using buzz phrases and making grandiose statements that were really quite vacuous. This reminds you of anyone in modern American politics? But he was essentially a very pathetic individual. But when the Second World War started and Germany were having successes, he was elevated to the almost godlike status. It's very interesting, really fascinating character, Hitler. And yeah, he could do no wrong. He was this military genius. He was, and then when things started to go wrong, the Battle of Stalingrad was the turning point of the Second World War. When Germany lost that and they were being pushed back on the Eastern Front, Hitler began to disappear. And we know how he ended his life. He ended his life hiding away in a bunker, way old before his years, not facing his people, disowning his people, allowing them to be slaughtered, refusing to surrender. He was still the Führer, the only one that mattered. And now this sort of shrinking of someone who is essentially a highly insecure, rather pathetic bully, I wonder if the same thing is happening to John Fury. Again, I know this is a very melodramatic comparison, and I'm not comparing John Fury to Hitler. Please don't think that's true. I'm just drawing a parallel between the psyche. The idea that with the bully psyche, if you stand up to the bully, and if the bully gets shown up, because bullies are certainly a lot of them have all the traits of being narcissists and completely everything's about them, and they have to project this image that is doesn't necessarily have anything to do with reality. What we end up with is somebody once they have been revealed to be not what they purported to be, they shrink very quickly and they hide away and they stay silent. Whereas once they couldn't shut up and they couldn't speak loud enough, suddenly they're shrinking and they're, it would seem to me that there's an element of this with John Fury. And yeah, I can't say I'm surprised, to be honest. I can't say I'm surprised. Now, just as an aside, I watched an interview with October Red and Peter Fury. October Red's channel's really good. She does some great interviews. Big shout out to October Red. And she was talking to Peter Fury, and she asked about the corner, the chaos in the corner for Tyson Fury during the Usyk fight. And Peter left no doubt whatsoever. He said, look, when I'm in the corner, there's one voice, and that's mine. I'm the head trainer. Everyone else, I think he used the phrase, shut the fuck up, or needs to fucking shut up, or something along those lines. And if anyone talks out of turn, they're sacked on the spot. They can go back to the dressing room and they are sacked on the spot. He stopped short of saying, mentioning his own brother, John, or Andy Lee. He didn't mention names, but he says he basically said the corner was chaos, and that's not the way you run a boxing corner, which is what myself and many, many others have said post the Fury Usyk fight. So maybe John has been shown up in that sense. I don't know. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe he desperately wants to be his son's head trainer. I mean, he basically, I don't know whether he instigated the sacking of Ben Davison, but he was less than complimentary about Ben Davison and said he should be removed. He threw an awful lot of shade over Sugar Hill over the last year. I don't know. Now that Tyson's lost, the cat's out of the bag now. Tyson has lost. He's lost that cloak of invincibility, which to some of us he never really had. I mean, I picked Usyk to beat him. I've always thought Fury is a very, very good heavyweight, but is beatable, highly beatable. And Usyk was certainly one of the ones I would have picked to beat him. I think he's past his best. Tyson Fury, that's part of the reason I picked Usyk, but by no means all of it. And maybe John, having lived vicariously through his son, is now seeing the end of the road, and he's thinking, okay, I need to pull back now. I need to stop. I need to stop making a fool of myself. Maybe the penny's dropped. Maybe there's suddenly been an epiphany with that defeat, where suddenly he's realizing the image that he's created, how it got out of hand, how no one took him seriously. Because there's nothing that someone who has a narcissistic element to their character, there's nothing they hate most than not being taken seriously. And I think people haven't taken John seriously for quite a while now. So where is he? And will he resurface? And when he does resurface, how will he behave? I think these are interesting questions. By the way, I've never met John Fury. I might meet him and like him, get on with him fine. I don't know. I haven't got a clue. But these are just some observations. So you might think I'm whistling Dixie, talking rubbish, or you might think I'm telling the truth. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. And yeah, I'll have a read of your comments and answer as many as I can. Thank you for your time, for listening to this video, watching this video. And please subscribe to the channel if you're new, because it helps us out a lot. And hit the like button as well if you don't mind, because it's all free. It's all free. Spread the love, you know what I mean? Yeah, all right. Looking forward to reading what you got to say, and I will speak to you later. Bye for now.